everyone. In today's video, we are going to learn how to write equations in slope-intercept form. And I think the best way to do this would be to make a little game out of it. So here's what we're going to be doing. In order to write a linear equation in slope-intercept form, we're going to be given all this stuff here. We're going to be given graphs or points that the line passes through, or solutions to the equation, or the slope, or the x, or the y-intercept. And the name of the game is going to be write the equation in y equals mx plus b form, which is the slope-intercept form of an equation. So here's our game. This is the goal of the game. We win the game when we're able to write the equation in y equals mx plus b form. Now, here is the important part. In order to win the game, we need to find the value of m, which is the slope, and the value of b, which is the y-intercept. So we're going to use our clues to win the game. All right, so remember, to win the game, we have to write our equation in y equals mx plus b, which is the slope-intercept form. And in order to win the game, we need to know the value of m and the value of b. Well, you are lucky if this is the information you're given, because in this first example, they come right out and tell us that the m is a -2 and that the b is a -3/4. And so all we have to do is plug it into this equation and we win the game. So y equals -2x, so I'm putting the -2 in the m spot, plus -3/4, which is the b, so it's going in the b spot. And then, of course, we undo the change, the plus negative, and turn it back into just a -3/4. Boom, we win the game. All right, let's see if we can win the second game. So again, remember, the name of the game is y equals mx plus b. So we need to know the value of m. We need to know the value of b. So let's see if we can win the game. They tell us that the slope is -3 and that the y-intercept is 9. Okay, so we have to do a little thinking. Okay, so slope is another letter, or another word for the letter m. So I'm going to put the -3 in the m spot. The y-intercept is just the word that we use to describe the letter b. So I'm going to put a 9 in the b spot, and then I'm going to quick put them into the equation. So y equals -3x plus 9, and we win the game. Yay, the crowd goes wild. Okay, here we go. Number 3. So we're writing the equation y equals mx plus b to win the game. All right, so we want to win the game. So what do they tell us? Well, we know we need m. We know we need b. Hope you're catching on to the rules of the game. So we know that the slope is -1. All right, easy peasy. We know m is -1. But this time they don't tell us the y-intercept. We don't know what that is. However, they give us this clue. They tell us that the line passes through the point 4, -3, which represents the x and the y coordinate of one of the solutions. So I am going to teach you a strategy, a very important strategy for winning this game. I am going to start with the equation. Look how many variables are in here. 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 variables in this equation. If I can identify 3 out of the 4, I'll be able to solve for the fourth one. Well, it just so happens that I know m is -1, x is 4, y is -3. That's 1, 2, 3 variables out of the 4 in the equation. So I'm going to put the -3, which is the y value, in the y spot. I'm going to put the -1 in the m spot, times x, so I'm going to put the 4 in the x spot, plus b. I'm going to multiply those together to simplify it a little bit, bring down the rest of the problem, and then solve it. To get the b by itself, I add 4 to both sides, and b equals 1. Look at that. I now know my information to win the game. Y equals -1x plus 1, since m is -1 and b is 1, and then that ghostly 1 is going to disappear and just become -x plus 1. We are good at playing this game. All right, Number 4, the line is vertical and passes through the point -3, -2. Well, we are determined to win this game. And to win the game, we have to write it in y equals mx plus b. Oh no, they don't give us anything except that they tell us that the x is -3, the y is -2, and that it has a vertical line. Let's use these clues. Well, we know a vertical line looks like this. We know the m is undefined. We know the slope is undefined. Remember, we talk about how if we were doing rise over run, we'd fall right off. So how can we use this information? Time is ticking and we really want to win the game. Well, I'll tell you what, you have to be pretty smart to figure out this one, and it's a good thing we are, because we know that vertical lines, let's look at one. When we graph them, -1, -2, -3 on the x-axis, -2 on the y-axis, the line's going to be vertical. We know that when we graph a vertical line, it only has this letter right here in it, which just so happens to be an x. So to win the game, this is a trick card. To win the game, vertical lines only have an x. They only have an x in them. So all we have to do is look at the x term, and there is our equation. They thought they'd stump us with this one, but they did not. We know that vertical lines only have an x, and therefore the equation is x equals -3. Huh. Now they think that they really have us tricked. The line is horizontal, so we know it goes that way. That means it has a slope of 0, and it passes through this point here. Well, they could fool us once, but they're not going to fool us twice. We know that in a horizontal line, the only value in it is a y. Horizontal lines only have a y. So, not going to fool us this time. I'm going to look for the y value, bring it over here, and I'm done. So, those last two, number 4 and number 5, are tricks in the game, but we're smart enough to know how to get that answer. Number 6, the line passes through the point 1, -3 and -2, 5. So to win the game, we need to write y equals mx plus b. So we need to know the value of m, and we need to know the value of b. We're given 2 points. So we're given an x1 and a y1 and an x2 and a y2. Well, we just so happen to know that we can find the slope by doing y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So I'm going to take my y values, 5 minus a -3, change, over -2 minus 1. So that's going to give me 8 over -3, or -8/3. So we do have our m value. Now, remember that strategy I showed you back in number 3, this little technique here to find our b value. Well, we're going to do that again. So when in doubt, I'm going to start with y equals mx plus b. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4 variables. I happen to know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, that's too many. I don't need to know all of those. So I'm just going to use this point here. It does not matter. I can use this one or this one. Doesn't matter. I'm going to choose this one. So I'm going to plug in the -3 for y. I'm going to plug in the -8/3 for m that we know. I'm going to plug in the 1 for x plus b. I'm going to multiply those together, -2 and 2/3. Bring down the rest of the problem. Add 2 and 2/3 to both sides. Let me move this out of the way. Add 2 and 2/3 to both sides, and voila, that's going to give me the value of b. b is equal to -1/3. So guess what? We win the game. Y equals -8/3 is my m, and -1/3 for my b, or my y-intercept. Game over, we won. Number 7, how do I write an equation in y equals mx plus b when I'm given a whole table of points? Well, I only need 2, to find my m. So I'm going to take y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So here's my y values. So 5 minus 2 over 2 minus 1. That's going to be 3 over 1, which is a plain old 3. Nice and easy. I don't have to worry about a fraction this time. Now, I need to find my b value to win the game. Well, remember, I could do that strategy. I could take y equals mx plus b, and I could pick one of my points, plug it in, y, m, and x, and solve for b. But we just found a loophole. We know that the y-intercept is when we let x equal 0. Look what happens in this x column. There just so happens to be a 0. So I know that the y-intercept is -1. Game over. Y equals 3x minus 1. All right, number 8. Ooh, not as easy. I've just noticed that there's no y-intercept in my table. Darn. Okay, that's all right. We know that to win the game, we need y equals mx plus b. We know we can find m by taking y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Let's pick the first 2 points this time. All right, so I'm going to do 9 minus 15. 9 minus 15. And since I went bottom up, I'm going to have to go bottom up over here too. So 2 minus 1. That gives me -6 over 1, -6. Well, I know that there's no 0 in my x column, so I know I can't find my y-intercept by doing the little trick I did in the last game. However, we do know that very important strategy. The strategy, 1, 2, 3, 4 variables. I happen to know an x, a y, and an m. So it doesn't matter which point we pick. Let's use those first 2 because they're positive. That'll be nice and easy. So I'm going to put the 15 in the y spot, the -6 in the m spot, the 1 in the x spot, and then plus b. Remember, we have to simplify first before we start solving, and then I'm going to add 6 to both sides. 21 equals b, game over. Y equals -6x plus 21. So again, here's how you win the game. This is what we need to find. This is a very important strategy to find the letter b. And if we know that, we are never going to lose this game. One more. Name of the game, y equals mx plus b. Slope-intercept form. I need to know m, I need to know b. Well, I could name those points, but we also know a shortcut to get to the finish line is to just do rise over run. So I'm going to count how many spaces. 1 space, 2 space, 3 space, 4 space. So I'm going 4 spaces up. That's a +4. And then I'm going, how many spaces left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, because I went left, that makes it negative. So I know that my slope is -4/5. So to find my b, well, I could use that new little technique. I could name one of my x and y points and use my m, but trick in this game, I know that the y-intercept is where the line touches the y-axis, and that's what b stands for, the y-intercept. So I'm going to count. Here's 0. That's my origin. 1, 2, 3. I know that my b is 3. Y equals -4/5 x plus 3. Hope you like the game. It's a lot of fun, and we are champions.